Hello everybody, I'm back today to talk about how to choose your first deck first, and then we'll talk about choosing one for a particular reading later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the same card from a variety of decks that I have. So we're going to go from the really classic and traditional, and we're going to sort of like move our way through and see how it can get more complicated and different, and still retain the meaning sometimes, and sometimes it changes the meaning. So hopefully this will help you think about how you want to go about choosing your first tarot deck. So let's see, we can start with, this is the traditional Rider-Waite. And whenever anyone asks me which deck they should start with, this is always the one that I say they should go to. They should go to a Rider-Waite or a clone. And here we have the Seven of Pentacles. And you can see the colors are kind of muted. I'm actually going to hold up the Golden Universal, which is a Rider-Waite clone, and you can see the difference. So here we have the original Rider-Waite, and here we have, I'm sorry, this isn't the Golden Universal, this is the Universal, sorry. You can see there's a difference. I mean, it's essentially the same picture, but some of the colors are different. It's sharper here in the Universal. You can see his face more clearly. So let's go with the original Rider-Waite. And so what you have to understand is that every symbol, every color, every line in a tarot card has meaning. In addition to the number, in this case it's 7, and the suit, which is pentacles here. Sometimes it's called coins, sometimes it's called discs, and people have come up with different variations on that. So it's going to be different from deck to deck. Here it doesn't say the word pentacles or coins or anything like that. You just have the Roman numeral 7. So if you can read Roman numerals, then you're fine. If you never learned how, then it might be a little tricky, but I don't know. So that's just a thought. Here he's standing, he's pausing in his work. He's resting on, what is it? Looks like a rake or a hoe. And looks like something's grown, right? He's looking at what has blossomed, what has I always think of it as like it's fruit on the vine, because those leaves look like grape leaves maybe, or something like that. And the sky is gray. He's standing in front of, there's some like mountains kind of far off in the distance, and what's funny here is that it looks like he's standing in water, because it's blue. Like he's got one foot on the ground and one foot in the water, which is seen in a lot of cards. But if we look at the Universal, it's changed to green. So it's just that he's got 2 feet firmly planted on the ground. And now we can see that it's definitely a hoe. And, but otherwise, the symbols are the same. You can see it's more viney. So either one of these you could start with, and there's just a whole lot of information you could get by examining all the images, all the different symbols in these cards. So this art might speak to you, or it might not. I always tell people that they should start by learning the traditional meanings, maybe just like a keyword for each card, just when you're getting started. and to start to combine that with your intuition about, well, what in that images, what does it evoke in you? What does it remind you of? Because that's going to be different for everybody. You know, someone might see this card and they're thinking, oh, that looks so nice. He's gardening and I love gardening. And look, he's got a green thumb and he made it, you know, he's doing a great job. He's earned his rest. And some people might look at it and say, like, oh, you know, I hate being outside like that. I would hate to work on a farm. It makes me think of like farm laborers who are abused, picking grapes. You know, the same image could be positive or negative or bring up different feelings in different people. So again, that's why it's a totally personal decision about which deck to use in the end. But I do suggest you start with a Rider-Waite with the original or with a clone. I'll show you some other clones now. So here we have what I mentioned before by accident. This is the Golden Universal. And you can see why it's called that, because it's shiny. And that's essentially the same here. We just have the number 7, a numeral. Instead of a Roman numeral, we have a number. And it's this guy again, but he's sort of like, his stance is different, right? So let's compare these. So what do we have? You know, this guy is just standing there kind of like proud and like, it looks like maybe he's the boss, not the guy who actually planted that stuff. Like he's surveying the work that other people did. So again, little changes like that, right? The way he's dressed, the way he's standing. And here we've got like beautiful blue skies and we've got that shimmery, you know, sunlight. So different feeling, very different feeling. Now we can move on to, this is from the Goddess Tarot. Same card, Seven of Pentacles. It's a woman this time. Looks like maybe she's wearing, not sure, a sari, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be. And those pentacles have lotuses in them, right? Instead of that 5-pointed star. And that 5-pointed star, again, it's irrelevant. So this is a lotus, right? Here we have the 5-pointed star. And what else? It's a woman. It's a different kind of scene. The sky is different. The tree is different. She's also surrounded by flowers and birds around the border. It says the number here, and it says pentacles at the bottom, right? So if you already know the Rider-Waite and you come across this card, it's not that much of a leap to go from that image to this image, right? You would recognize it and say, oh yeah, I remember that one. That one looks familiar. And we're going to go even further. So this is from the... This is the Housewives Tarot. This is a very funny deck. This is a deck that I don't use for readings. I just love it. I think it's hilarious. So here we have, it says it right at the top, 7 of Pentacles. There's some actual pentacles there in a tree. But of course we've got like, you know, mom out in her garden. It's 1950 something. You know, she's got her gloves on and her garden hose, and so very different imagery, very different significance here, I think. But it's fun and it's funny, and a lot of people do read with these, especially for themselves. So there's that. Then we have from one of my favorite decks. If you know me, you know I love the Saki Saki Tarot. So this has no person. So the artist here decided very purposely to not include a figure here. But we still have that, that hoe is still there, but it's resting up against maybe a wall or something. We still have the fruit growing. These remind me more of sunflowers, which to me has a whole other significance. Very different from like a grapevine or something else that grows on a vine. A sunflower is a very different plant to me. We've got blue skies, we've got brown earth, right? So the colors are very different. She also uses coins as a suit. It says 7. It also has the Roman numerals at the top. And then you've got astrological symbols, which I find very helpful now that I'm trying to learn more about astrology. Now that's a big difference there. I haven't seen that many decks that include astrological symbols. So that's from the Saki Saki Tarot. Seven of Pentacles from the Dreaming Way. Again, I love this artwork. We have a woman again. We have a figure. We see pentacles, but this time they're on like shopping bags. There's one behind her that looks like maybe it's a frisbee that's about to hit her. I'm a little worried for her. She went shopping. She went on a shopping spree. Maybe she has a shopping addiction. She looks a little frazzled. Not too happy. You know, if I did that much shopping, I would be smiling, I think. But maybe she's overdone it. And again, the background's very different. It's a very different scene. Then we have, this is from the Line Strider Tarot. Very different art. It says 7 of Pentacles at the bottom. I love this artwork. And I'm very comfortable reading with this deck now that I've gotten to know it. But I wouldn't be comfortable with this at all if I was a newbie. And I wouldn't recommend a deck like this where the art is so different from traditional. If you're really just starting out and just trying to learn, trying to get a grasp on the traditional meanings, this would make it a little difficult, in my opinion. So, but I think it's just, Silo Thompson's artwork is just gorgeous. I love her style. I love this deck. So I do use this a lot for readings. And finally we have 7 of Pentacles from the Wild Unknown. And this really, so we've gone from here to here, right? So really, the only things this has in common is that there's 7, they're pentacles, the 5-pointed star, and we have the Roman numerals at the top. Right? These are going up in this direction diagonally. These are going in the other direction. So pretty different. So again, you kind of have to know your stuff. You have to know what the traditional meaning for the 7 of Pentacles is, unless this art speaks to you. And again, that's just, everybody's different. So I know this really speaks to a lot of people. And again, this is another deck that I love using. I don't think it's a great first deck, but then again, it could be for some people. I had a conversation with Kelly Knight of Modern Mystic Tarot. Some of you might be familiar with her. And she put it so well. She said that she had seen other tarot decks and they didn't really speak to her. And when she started using the Wild Unknown tarot deck, it was like it spoke her language. It was like all the other decks she had ever seen before were written in a language that she was completely unfamiliar with. And the Wild Unknown it spoke to her. It was in her language. So I think that's a really good way to think about it. So when you look at a deck, Is it speaking your language? Does it make sense to you? If it doesn't, it's going to be really hard for you to read with. So that's that. Now I'm going to answer how to choose a deck for a reading. So again, it depends on if you're reading for yourself or if you're reading for someone else. So I let other people choose their deck. Sometimes I'll think of a few that I think might be good for them, and then I will present them with choices. Most of the time, people say, I want you to choose to me, which is fine. I understand that. And what I've done with all of my decks is a deck interview. So I'm going to do another video on that another time on how to conduct a deck interview, and I'll actually do one so you can see what I do, and you might want to do the same thing. So I've interviewed all my decks, so I sort of have a sense of their personality, of the kind of readings that they're going to be good for, of the way that they operate, if that makes sense. And sometimes I'm surprised. So, for example, when I first got The Dreaming Way, right? I looked at the artwork and I thought, oh wow, it's so dreamy, right? It's the dreaming way. Like the soft colors, and I just thought, oh, this is gonna be great for like, really deep introspective questions and philosophical questions, and maybe for like romantic, soulmate relationship readings, maybe for like dream work and journaling and things like that. I did a deck interview with it after I had gotten to know it a little bit. Spent a little time with it, looked through the deck a few times, enjoyed the artwork. After I'd done that, I did a deck interview. And what it ended up telling me is that it was a very straightforward and to the point, very swordsy, if that makes sense, kind of tarot deck. It wasn't going to beat around the bush. It wasn't going to, say what I wanted to hear. It was going to tell it to me straight. And so actually it turns out that it's been really good for business readings. And yes, for relationship readings, but for when the hard truth needs to be heard. Which happens a lot, unfortunately. So you never know. Sometimes you think a deck is going to read a certain way, and then after you do a deck interview or after you've worked with it for a while, then you realize it's not what I thought it was. And then sometimes they do work perfectly for what you thought they would be. So that's it, I think. Please let me know if you have any questions about what I talked about today. I hope this was helpful and informative. And again, if you want to choose a first deck, I really want you to go with one of these Rider-Waite clones to get started. And once you feel like you can flip through an entire deck and you have, at least a sense of what that card signifies traditionally, until you can do that, I wouldn't suggest that you move on to other decks. The art has to speak to you. You have to have some understanding of what the symbols are. And most of all, it has to be enjoyable to you, I think. It has to be something that's fun. I prefer decks that have more women. I prefer decks that have more people of color. I prefer decks that have animals. That's what speaks to me. So I kind of get tired, of too many like Renaissance-y, pictures. So that's me. And everyone's different. So good luck in choosing, whether it's your first deck or you've you already own a lot of decks, good luck with it. I know it can be an addiction for a lot of people, and they end up spending a lot of money on them. So do your research. You can Google the images and see what every deck looks like before you buy it. So again, please ask me questions down below. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye.